Recently, I have been reflecting on how our lives have shifted so many times and so dramatically over the past 18 months. It's felt strange to look back at that day in March last year where we were told that we couldn't go out, that we had to work from home, and how we had to protect our NHS and the vulnerable. It was a scary time, and already only being allowed out for one piece of exercise a day feels like a very, very long time ago. Everything shifted so very quickly. The roads were empty, events were cancelled, and we had to get used to being in our homes probably more than we ever had done before. And I wonder now, when you look back on that time, how you feel. Of course, it was a very difficult time, but there were also times where goodness shone through. Neighbours looking out for one another, connecting virtually online with friends and family, and perhaps finding a new love for walks in the countryside. You might be wondering why I'm bringing all of this up now. Well, it's because I'm aware that this time is gradually getting further and further away, and I'm sure that we're all praying that we don't have to revisit another lockdown. Don't get me wrong, I'm very happy that we're now in a place where we have more freedom. But I do think it's important that we stop and reflect on what God has been saying to us and what we might have learned over the past season. Something I want to reflect on today is rest. For me, lockdown meant a complete shift to my work, to lots of online Zooms, to online quizzes, and to thinking of other creative ways of engaging with young people when I wasn't allowed to see them face to face. Of course, that itself was mentally draining. However, over time, I actually found it easier to have times of rest. And when I say rest, I don't necessarily mean just relaxing and doing nothing. I mean going out for long walks. I mean spending time reading or listening to podcasts. I mean connecting with God. And maybe actually what I mean on reflection is that it felt easier, or perhaps more a priority, to make time to switch off. And as we get closer to September, to the new academic year starting, to events being on and the world opening up, it's absolutely a time to be thankful and happy. However, can I just suggest that you pause for a moment and consider what habits were not healthy before lockdown and what you may now be tempted to pick back up again. And for me, that would be possibly not allowing myself to have enough time to deeply connect with God regularly. Not once do we hear of Jesus' life being in a hurry. He's never weighed down by busyness and instead is present and well rested. Not only was this part of who he was, but it was deeply ingrained within the spiritual rhythms God set in place for the Jewish people, revolving around the Sabbath. God gave man 6 days to work, and then he gave a day of rest. The pinnacle of the week in the life of a Jew was always a Sabbath, a day of rest, where they were fully present with their Creator and his creation. During the Sabbath, the Jews focused on being together with family, slowing down and setting aside their busy schedules to simply be present with one another. I wonder if you could relate to this over lockdown. In the past 18 months, it seems that God has been using the time to get our attention and call us towards this. Rabbi Abraham Joshua Heschel explains the beauty of Sabbath rest with God like this. 6 days a week, we wrestle with the world, wringing profit from the earth. And on the Sabbath, we especially care for the seed of eternity planted in the soul. The world has our hands, but our soul belongs to someone else. It's a reminder that our soul, body, mind, and spirit belong to God. And in Matthew 11:28, it says, "Come to me, all who are weary and heavy laden, and I will give you rest for your souls." Jesus isn't saying, "Come to me, happy, cheery, and optimistic." It's the opposite. Jesus is saying, "Come to me, however you are feeling." In this space, rest is emotional honesty. Rest is about returning to your true identity. The world loves to label us by what we can do and what we can achieve, but that's not how we're seen by our Father God. Returning ourselves to rest opens spaces for us to be real about who we are and who we're created to be. And finally, rest isn't failure. If you're like me, rest often leads to feeling a bit guilty. Rest actually is spiritual intimacy. Sometimes it takes guts to admit that we're tired and that we need help. And by doing this, we are far more open to hearing God's voice. So can I encourage you today to spend some time reflecting on the past 18 months and looking forward to the new academic year and all that it may hold. But when you are done reflecting on this, ultimately, I wonder, are you allowing yourself to have enough time to rest?